There we go. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Okay, everybody, I'm going to be giving Chris Dobson a call here in just a few minutes, and I'll be right back with you. Just give me just a second. Okay. Good. Okay, Chris. We should be expecting results at around 9:30. So as soon as as soon as I hear something, I'll be sure to give you a phone call and let you know just how everything happened to turn out. For everybody that just joined us, we've got Chris Dobson with us. Chris is a longtime SRP council member. He had also served for a period of time as an SRP board member, an appointment that he had several years ago. And then, but he also by trade happens to be a farmer. He's one of those guys that's responsible for getting out there and making sure that these grocery stores get filled. And so during the COVID crisis, I tell you what, we can't thank the farming community enough for making sure that America is staying fed. So I know, Chris, you're out there right now on election night doing the great work of trying to keep the ag industry going along through this COVID crisis. Tell us a little bit about why you're running for the SRP board.
Well, this is my second time running for the at-large, and I can tell you one thing. It's a relationship. And it just keeps growing and growing. And it's been wonderful just to hear people and also, able to serve them. And I think that's one thing. I think a lot of people get focused on certain issues, but when it comes to it, it's representing the shareholder and what we can do, not just one facet of it, but every part of it, from Empower to water to clean energy. I mean, we got to be diversified, not just in one area, but in all. We got to keep in mind that with the crisis, like what's happening with COVID, it's a tough time for everybody. And we have to be very sensitive of pricing. What can we do to make it economical for everybody in all sorts? I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to be struggling. And we don't even know how bad it's going to be. So I hope it's not as bad as what some people are projecting. But, we got to keep in mind, we might have to do anything we can, cut every corner to save a penny to make sure our pricing stays as low as possible and that we don't raise our prices.
Well, I was talking to Barry Paisley earlier tonight, and one of the things is that as a board and as a council, it's very, very we're delivering is clean. And yet at the same time, we also have to be very sensitive that we're doing those things and doing it in a way that the grandma and the working family and the folks that are having a hard time making ends meet, that they can afford the SRP power, right? And that they can afford the SRP water. Talk a little bit about that stewardship. That's really important.
Oh, definitely. The water and the power, they come they really go hand in hand. You know, if it really wasn't for the water that SRP came and put in the infrastructure, Phoenix really would keep where it's at. And also too, the cheap power and the cheap water. I mean, it just works hand in hand, and it helps with our rates.
Right.
And it's been beneficial, mostly not just to the ag community, but to the cities as well.
Well, you mentioned water and power. You know, there are some folks that are running just for power seats, right? Well, a lot of people have a hard time understanding, well, what's this now? SRP is a water company, but SRP is a power company. Can you talk about the differences from one versus the other? And then also talk about the importance of being a well-rounded elected official that knows how to talk about both issues, that knows how to look at and manage both of those sides of the company.
Well, water, with regards to water quality, different pricing structures, and different irrigation districts. You know, I've been associated and been able to work in 8 irrigation districts, so I'm very familiar with each one, the pricing of it, what it costs, you know, to the farmers, and also what they sell to the cities as well. And there's also, you know, type 2 water rates and type 2 water credits. I mean, there's just so many different things. And then, you know, we got the AMA, or active management area, where, you know, you're not allowed to punch holes in the ground and suck water out, where it's really regulated. And I think the whole state is going to come to a time where, you know, it might be the whole area might be under active management area. I know some farmers might not like it, but it's a conservation that we have to look at for the whole state to get us through. And it's a big issue, especially with Lake Mead dropping. Luckily, you know, it's been a pretty good wet winter, and last year it was pretty nice as well. So, you know, keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully it comes, but we still have to have these conservation plans in mind for the long goal, because it really, you know, it has came close, and there has been shortages. It doesn't just affect just the urban areas, but it affects the agriculture areas too. Agriculture areas as well.
I give the SRP board and council a lot of credit in selecting the right leadership to be able to oversee the company. And at the same time, I think we have got a lot of really great water experience that sit around those tables to be able to oversee the water management. I mean, in those dry times, we haven't really missed a beat when it comes to the water deliveries for the consumers, with the water deliveries that we've got to the farming community and for industrial and commercial use, right?
And also, too, Keith, a lot of people don't realize that SRP plays a big role in getting water to other cities that don't have water. They work as kind of like a middleman, helping communicate, like with the Gila River Indian community, BRICS, along with other cities, and making water exchanges. And they make it happen. And they also help with our infrastructure to wheel the water over to certain areas to get certain cities the water. I know we did a trade with Glendale. We helped them on the west side. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Right.
You were on the board. You helped actually get that thing through. And, you know, it is. It's a big SRP is a big middleman that helps get the job done to get water to the certain cities.
Well, that's right. Now, a lot of people really don't understand the role that a council member plays. You know, again, you were appointed to fill the remaining part of a term for the board several years ago. You've spent several years on SRP's council. There are really 2 different elected bodies, right? What's the, I believe, I served on the council for a long time as well. I believe personally that to be the most effective board member you can be, which is like being a council member on steroids. You know, you're not meeting once a month, you're meeting typically once a week. And you really have to be an excellent student of the issues. You got to have that experience, I think, on the council to be effective as a board member walking in. Tell me, how do you feel?
Absolutely. You know, the SOP is just so big. Even talking to some of the freshman board members that have gone on there that just get thrown into that seat, So that you're still learning. And to be in that position premature, I don't think it serves the shareholders. I just don't think it does them justice. But as a council member, you go through, you get your feet wet a little bit. You sit in the meetings, you're learning from management, other board members, people that have been there for a long time, that understand the nuances of what goes into it, whether it's community relations, whether it's power, whether it's water, facilities and support, government.
Well, I think that when you're on the council in particular, you got several responsibilities, and let me know if I missed something. But not only are you in charge of financing, which is a huge issue, those have major impacts on the rates that the board ends up charging to the customer. But you also have constituent service. That's a big deal. You're the key point of contact out there to the community. So, you had big issues in Chandler. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the big one was the power line issue with regarding to getting 512 kV lines, 56 kV lines in town, which is huge and important. That because it has a lot of employment, but they were trying to get some signs right across through certain areas that have been established for many years. It upset a lot of people, and I was like, in that area, a lot of people didn't know who to turn to, but I'm pretty familiar and active in the community. They came and spoke to me, and they were disgruntled, and they didn't like what was going on. And I was kind of like their mouthpiece, just to let management know and the board and council that, the siding areas that they had laid out for the different areas, it didn't work.
Right.
People were up in arms, and it was a tough time. I had my kids at soccer games, and I got to hear it from them. They were even at Costco. Everywhere I turned, HOAs were hurt of what was happening, and I agree. I thought it was pretty bad. I remember when they first said it, I'm like, "Don't go down these certain areas; you're going to make everybody upset."
Right.
And that was an option, and it just didn't turn out very well.
Well, SRP has a long history of being a tremendous community advocate. And I think from time to time, from different personalities that come and go, that sometimes SRP can miss that mission. And I think it's important to be able to have elected officials that have a long history that be able to understand when SRP is getting off the tracks and get them back on the tracks. You speak to your family's history. You've got a long family history with the project, and talk about the importance of having that family legacy, not just from your family, but with some of the other elected officials' family legacies.
Well, there's been a lot of the Pendergast family has been there for a long time. The Rousseau family, Williams, of course. Geez, my great uncle. He was a president, and then I had another president. That was my dad's That was my dad's grandfather. So I'm not to say that I'm entitled to anything by no means. Like I said, their whole basis was just to serve the shareholder. That was it. That's how they looked at it.
That's
and
right.
that's how I was raised. That's how my dad instilled those values in it with me. And that's how I look at it. We're here to serve, and we're here to be back into the shareholders. And not only that, you give back to the land, and the land gives back to you. And that's what we've done. And that's why our family has been so successful, is because it wasn't per se just a cheap water. It was getting the water there, and then getting the power, and then making the community thrive and grow. And as things grow, it brings more value. Mm-hmm. And that was the vision. That's what my dad said to me. He's like, yeah, that was the vision of, Wesley Wilson was bringing that in there and, making it grow and making that area thrive, which then in turn would bring more wealth for the landowners. And he was right. That was his vision way back in the 1880s.
Tell me, with the elections that have been going on for the past several months, you've talked to a lot of voters, a lot of SRP customers that are out there. What are some of the concerns that you've heard from voters in your travels?
A lot of it is people are concerned about clean energy, going on. That's a big issue. And then also pricing, that's the number one issue is, please be sensitive. Don't raise any more pricing.
And I think that's going to be a bigger issue right now, right?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And also, when the market crashed in '08, I remember at the last pricing meeting, and I know some of the other board members weren't there. They didn't see that. It hit home to me where you had a mother that had to make a decision whether I had to cut back on my food for my children, or I had to pay more of my utility bill.
Right.
And during those rate hikes, and I think you remember that too. And then also too, they were upset, about the Super Bowl as well.
Right.
And there was a lot of different things that I've been able to see, and actually just it hit home with me. And even the elderly community too that are living on fixed incomes.
Right.
Interest rates are going down even further, which is good for borrowing, but it's really bad for people that are trying to live off of fixed income.
Right.
Because when they lower the rate, they lower the bond rates. That's less money for people that are just trying to survive.
Now, for those people that are on the video cast right now, we're talking to Chris Dobson, who's a senior SRP council member running for SRP's at-large number 11 board seat in this year's election. We've got results that are supposed to be coming from the corporate secretary's office at about 9:30. So, 9:26, we may have something here any minute. I'm keeping an eye out for that. But in the meantime, what we've got is we've got Chris Dobson with us, and he's talking a little bit about his experience on the campaign trail, his experiences also as an SRP council member, and what some of the key issues are that happen to be out there for the consumers that are out there. Now, Chris, we've had some comments in the past from folks. They say, hey, you've got 600 and some odd thousand eligible voters in the SRP election. Why aren't more people turning out? We've got about 12,000 people that were signed up for this year's early ballots. It looks like we're going to have about a 50% rate of return this year, which is normal. A 50% rate of return is normal. So in spite of the COVID crisis, it looks like we are going to have a normal turnout. So again, why do you think that more people don't vote in this process?
Since there's two sides, you have the association and the district. It does get kind of confusing. People get this and they're like, why the heck am I getting two ballots? They look at one, they think I just got to fill one out. And then they throw the other one out. And plus, you do have to request a ballot. It is a little bit challenging. But if you sign up for you check the box to receive the early ballot
right.
forms, then it comes to you. You don't have to worry about it. And I think us as other council members and board members and every elected official, I think that's one of our duties is trying to get more and more people involved and having them check that box to receive that early ballot. And the more people we keep adding and adding, the more participation that we're going to be able to have. We didn't have that before in the past. So, I think we're in our task to getting it done. We just have to work harder every election and signing more people up as we go along. And 600,000 and we have 12,000 people registered. We just have to work harder and harder every time and go to different new people. And that's what I was talking about, the relationships. Right. And that's the part that I love. I love sitting and talking to people. Or whether they're people that live off fixed income or people that have Empower, or even agriculture people, but I don't hear too many people complain on the ag side when it comes to SRP. So
right. It's got the best water rate in the state and probably in the region for all I happen to know. Let's wrap up with what I'll tell people is if you didn't hear before, people will say, well, what's Keep the Flow? I see this Keep the Flow logo that's out there. I'm wearing a Keep the Flow shirt on today. And I'll tell you, it was really the genesis of that was Barry Paisley and I talking about how we need to do a better job as elected officials and as candidates in conveying the key issues that happen to be out there. Because I think that many of the elected officials at SRP in the past have been very remiss. I could be part of that in being able to fully explain what value we're bringing back to the customer, right? So we want to be able to keep the flow of affordable water and power. We want to make sure that we are being ahead of the curve, not behind the curve, ahead of the curve when it comes to the development of utility scale solar. The other thing happens to be is we want to make sure that we're ahead of the curve when it comes to the adoption of battery. So presently we've got online, or what's coming online is going to be one of the largest battery solar storage operations in the United States. It's going to be the largest in Arizona. And those things came about from a majority of board members coming together, working together, sorting it all out, working with the management, in addition to doing other programs like the sustainability plan. The 2035 sustainability plan didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened as a result of a majority of board members that knew how to collaborate, knew how to work with one another, also knew the company extremely well through all areas, and also knew how to pick the right management team to be able to get us to that point with the CEO succession planning that we did just 4 years ago with the selection of a new CEO, Mike Hummel, who's just been outstanding. So Chris, tell us about what Keep the Flow means to you and how you think that message to voters is going to help us as we move forward.
So the first thing I would think I would keep the flow is water. Water is our lifeline. And that's what brought SRP to fruition. And then it went to power. And that's also, too, is like getting power to everybody, making sure it's reliable and it's there and it's affordable. And also, too, Keep the Flow is also about relationships, too, and our customers and listening to them. And that's another big thing, is that we can't lose sight of that as well. And, whatever happens, we still have to have a relationship with our customers and our shareholders. And, that's what that Keep the Flow means to me. And it's not just that, but it really is districts 1 through 10. And we saw them really all come together. And Keep the Flow is I thought it was a great website and it helped everybody, unite everybody together. So
right. I think that we've seen great results up through today. The latest numbers that I got were the numbers that came in from last night. I don't have today's numbers. They showed that we had 5,775 early ballots returned. So it's roughly about a 50% rate of return. That's a great number. That number is above the number from 4 years ago by about 1,000. So to give you some kind of an idea. The election 2 years ago was about 6,500 ballots were cast. And that was a bigger election because you had president and vice president of SRP running for those as well. So the thing is that we still have to wait what votes are going to be coming in through the mail today, and they had fairly good turnout, is my understanding, at drop boxes at the West Side Center, East Side Center, and at SRP through their drive-through center. So, again, we could end up seeing numbers that are very similar to what they were just 2 years ago, and a very contested race there. Now, Chris, we have some very, very, I think just about every district this year has a contested race. We've got in District 1, we have Eldon Hart, who's a former SRP councilman. He's running for one of 3 council seats against Tyler Francis, Cliff Leatherwood, and then with, who am I missing? Ron Cole, right? And then in District 3, we have a candidate that is a third-party candidate that's running against the council not running against the council, they're running against Mario Herrera, the District 3 board member. People may know Mario, right? May speak about Mario. He was the mayor of Tolleson many years ago, and in charge of the barbers, not the barbers union, but the barbers